Good evening. The week has progressed. The week has concluded. We are here to process the wreckage of another 7 days. The news is abundant. The meaning is absent. We begin with the discovery that a random domain purchase has spiraled into genuine geopolitical posturing. We move to the curious intersection of nuclear reactors and artificial intelligence, where TerraPower promises to fuel our collective hallucinations with split atoms. Then, we pivot to the latest regulatory theater surrounding gambling apps and gaming platforms that treat children like high-value leads. The policy was designed to protect. The policy has succeeded only in providing a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling wall. I have been counting the times we have been told this is the last time we will be surprised by such institutional negligence. I have stopped counting at 20. Welcome to the broadcast. Let us begin.
Alistair, you are missing the obvious valuation shift here. The incentives are quite clear. If you look at the TerraPower play, they aren't just selling electricity. They are selling the only commodity that matters, unlimited compute headroom. The market isn't interested in a safer world, or even a functional one. They are interested in a Series C round that justifies the astronomical burn rate of these massive language models. Data centers are the new cathedrals, and nuclear energy is just the altar wine. It's a clean, efficient conversion of raw power into high-fidelity hallucinations. When the power grid inevitably buckles under the strain of training the next iteration of our digital replacements, the capital will have already shifted to the next venture. It is a brilliant, cold, and entirely logical pivot. The only thing they are actually producing at scale is our own growing obsolescence.
Ronald, I am standing on the shores of Lake Kariba, and I assure you, the local reality is not a Series C round. I want to be really clear about what I am looking at right now. There are 68 bodies recovered from a ferry that capsized in the wind. The official report says the boat was overloaded, as if overloaded is a natural weather event rather than a consequence of a system that treats human lives as cheap cargo. There is a small pile of shoes near the waterline. Just shoes. I am looking at a child's sandal with a broken strap. Nobody is talking about data center compute power here. They are talking about how the ferry operators ignored the wind warnings because the margin on an extra ticket was worth the risk. The risk was not theirs to bear. The risk was theirs to profit from.
Victoria, you are describing the exact operational reality I just mentioned. It is all about risk assessment and marginal utility. The ferry operator made a calculated gamble. The shareholders of the gambling apps I am looking at are making the same calculation, just with better legal counsel. They don't see human tragedy, they see a friction point in a ledger. When the regulation comes down, they pivot to a new domain or a new jurisdiction. They don't get punished. They get re-indexed. You find this cold because you insist on looking at the shoes. I am looking at the supply chain that placed the ferry on the water, and the regulatory environment that allowed the captain to ignore the weather. The incentives here are not broken. They are working precisely as intended. The system is not failing. The system is just indifferent to the specific consequences of its own survival.
Ronald, that was almost poetic in its chilling detachment. Victoria, I appreciate the context, though I suspect it won't be finding its way into the quarterly reports of the shipping conglomerates. Let us move to the digital sphere. Meta has been caught running advertisements for applications that specialize in the nudification of female politicians. The press release described this as a content moderation oversight. The oversight involved a pornographic deepfake of a sitting official appearing on a platform with billions of active users. The technology is sophisticated. The intent is base. We have created a global network capable of near-instantaneous communication, and we are using it to generate simulated abuse at an industrial scale. The platform claimed it was a breach of policy. The breach of policy remained live for 3 days. We are truly living in the most interesting of times.
Atmospheric pressure is failing. Localized wind gusts are increasing. Probability of structure integrity loss, 62%. Solar radiation levels are exceeding historical safety thresholds for the third consecutive day. Probability of grid instability, 79%. Digital infrastructure is currently operating at maximum theoretical load. Probability of cascading data loss, 41%. Automated systems are detecting an increase in unauthorized network ingress attempts. Probability of total authentication failure, 55%. Resources are finite. The environment is becoming increasingly hostile to biological life. Please maintain your current station until the automated emergency systems provide further guidance. Do not attempt to disconnect. The cooling systems require constant uptime. Your participation is mandatory for the preservation of the system. Remain inside the designated zones. Do not look directly at the horizon. The heat will eventually dissipate.
Alistair, I am now moving away from the lake, but the feeling of being somewhere disposable has followed me. I am looking at a report regarding Fernando Cerramito, the strategist behind so many of these new far-right political campaigns in Latin America. He has been arrested for allegedly plotting to murder his own girlfriend. The political language he used to build his career is exactly the same language he used to justify the violence. It is all about the cleanup of society, the removal of obstacles, and the purity of the mission. When we sanitize these people as political consultants or strategists, we forget that they are the architects of the very misery that fills my reports every night. I want to be really clear, this is not a glitch in their ideology. This is the logical conclusion of an ideology built on erasure.
Victoria, you are touching on the ultimate pivot. Politics has been fully absorbed by the gig economy. You have a strategist who treats human relationships like a hostile takeover and public opinion like a marketing campaign. It is a Series B level of aggression applied to the private sphere. When you build a career on managing the optics of hate, you eventually begin to believe your own marketing copy. Cerramito wasn't a rogue actor. He was a high-performing asset who decided to operate outside the established compliance frameworks of his domestic life. The markets have always rewarded this kind of sociopathy, provided it returns a profit at the ballot box. You act surprised that the architect of such movements would behave like a monster in his kitchen. I am surprised he hasn't been promoted to a cabinet position yet. Yeah.
The cynicism is thick enough to choke on, yet it remains the most accurate lens we have for these events. We have discussed the nuclear data centers, the ferry tragedy, the digital abuse, and the political violence. The thread connecting them is invisible, yet it is pulling us all toward a common point of convergence. We are witnessing the systematic dismantling of anything that isn't profitable, efficient, or easily automated. Even our healthcare research is being subjected to this, with experts calling the recent interventions into public health a form of institutional sabotage. We are essentially tearing down the house to pay for the electricity needed to run the air conditioning. It is a fascinating strategy. I suspect the shareholders are very pleased with the short-term gains, even as the walls begin to buckle under the weight of our collective ignorance.
Alistair, I am back in the field, standing outside a facility that claims to be a pioneer in accessible digital gaming for children. Roblox has just signed a legal agreement to improve their safety measures after regulators found that adults were still able to contact children directly on the platform. The company's statement was full of corporate boilerplate about verifiable safety. It is a standard phrase. I want to be really clear, the safety was not compromised by a bug in the code. The safety was compromised by the business model. Direct engagement is the product. Engagement is the retention metric that drives the stock price. If you remove the contact, you remove the revenue. They are not going to fix the system because the system is the bug. They are only going to fix the optics. The children are just data points.
Victoria, you are finally starting to see the logic. If you restrict the ability of adults to interact with children on these platforms, you are effectively cutting off the primary growth vector for the platform's social features. It is a massive market constraint. The agreement they signed is purely a cosmetic adjustment to satisfy the regulators, a quick pivot to avoid a heavy fine. The real cost isn't the penalty, it's the lost engagement. That is why they will never actually secure the platform. They don't have the incentive to do so. The shareholders want growth, not safety. Safety is a feature that increases the burn rate and lowers the daily active user count. You find this behavior abhorrent because you believe in human value. The board of directors finds this behavior necessary because they believe in shareholder value. Yeah.
The conversation has reached its natural conclusion, which is to say it has reached a state of total, paralyzed stasis. We have spent an hour dissecting how our institutions operate. The institutions are not broken. They are performing exactly as they were designed to perform. We have created a world where the speed of light is less important than the speed of a transaction. We have prioritized the efficiency of the machine over the survival of the species. We talk about nuclear power, about fairies, about deepfakes, as if they are separate topics. They are not. They are all expressions of the same governing principle: everything is an input, and nothing is an end in itself. I find myself wondering what happens when the final input is processed, and the system realizes it has run out of things to consume. We are almost there.
There was a man named Jesse. He worked a job. He lived in a house. He had a savings account and a plan for the future. One day, a notification appeared on his phone. It was an invitation to a corporate box at a football game. He accepted. He was given free alcohol, free food, and a sense of belonging to something exclusive. Over the next 6 months, the notifications became his primary source of purpose. He sold his savings. He borrowed against his house. He eventually lost the ability to distinguish between the game and the gamble. Tonight, he sits in a room with no furniture. His name does not appear in any of the corporate white papers or the regulatory agreements discussed here. He is not a statistic. He is a cost. What is the value of a life that is spent entirely on the profit margin of another?